Hello, welcome to the Self Learning Podcast by Dr. Sushma Singh. Let us start discussion on Chapter 1 Social Structure, Stratification, and Social Processes in Society. And our topic is Cooperation and Division of Labor. The idea of cooperation rests on certain assumptions about human behaviors. It is argued that without human cooperation, it would be difficult for the human life to survive. Further, it is argued that even in the animal world, we witness cooperation, whether they be ants or bees or mammals. Comparison with the animal world should, however, be done carefully. We look at two different theoretical traditions in sociology to illustrate the point, those represented by Emil Durkheim and Karl Marx. Sociology, for the most part, did not agree with the assumption that human nature is necessarily nasty and brutish. Emil Durkheim argues against a vision of primitive humanity whose hunger and thirst, always badly satisfied, were their only passions. Instead, he argued, they overlook the essential elements of moral life, that is, the moderating influence that society exercises over its members, which tempers and neutralizes the brutal action of the struggle for existence and selection. Wherever there are societies, there is altruism because there is solidarity. Thus, we find altruism from the beginning of humanity and even in truly intemperate form. For Durkheim, solidarity, the moral force of society, is fundamental for our understanding of cooperation and thereby the functioning of society. The role of division of labor, which implies cooperation, is precisely to fulfill certain needs of society. The division of labor is at the same time a law of nature and also a moral rule of human conduct. Durkheim distinguished between the mechanical and organic solidarity that characterized pre-industrial and complex industrial societies respectively. Both are forms of cooperation in society. Mechanical solidarity is the form of cohesion that is based on fundamentally on sameness. Most of the members of such societies live very similar lives, with little specialization or division of labor beyond that associated with age and sex. Members feel bonded together essentially by their shared beliefs and sentiments, their common conscience and consciousness. Organic solidarity is that form of social cohesion that is based on division of labor and the resulting interdependence of members of society. As people become more specialized, they also become more dependent upon each other. A family engaged in subsistence farming may survive with little or no help from similar homesteaders, but specialized workers in a garment or a car manufacturing factory cannot survive without a host of other specialized workers supplying their basic needs. Karl Marx too distinguishes human life from animal life, while Durkheim emphasized altruism and solidarity as distinctive of the human world. Marx emphasized consciousness. He writes, men can be distinguished from animals by consciousness, by religion, or by anything else you like. They themselves begin to distinguish themselves from animals as soon as they begin to produce their means of subsistence, a step which is conditioned by their physical organization. By producing their means of subsistence, men are indirectly producing their material life. The above quote from Marx may appear difficult, but will help us understand how cooperation in human life is different from cooperation in animal life. For humans not only adjust and accommodate to cooperate, but also alter society in that process. For example, men and women cover over the ages had to adjust to natural constraints. Various technological innovations over time not only transformed human life, but in some sense nature too. Humans incorporating thus do not passively adjust and accommodate, but also change the natural or social world to which they adjust. We had discussed in the chapter on culture and socialization in earlier book, introducing sociology, how Indians had to adjust and accommodate and cooperate with the English language because of our experience with British colonialism, but also how in that process English has emerged as a living social entity. While both Durkheim from a functionalist view and Marx from a conflict perspective emphasize cooperation, they also differ. For Marx, cooperation is not voluntary in a society where class exists. He argues the social power, the multiplied productive force which arises through the cooperation of different individuals, as it is caused by the division of labor, appears to these individuals, since their cooperation is not voluntary but has come about naturally, not as their own united power, but as an alien force existing outside them. Marx used the term alienation to refer to the loss of control on the part of workers over the concrete content of labor and over the products of their labor. In other words, workers lose control over how to organize their own work, and they lose control over the fruits of their labor. Contrast, for example, the feeling of fulfillment and creativity of a weaver or potter or ironsmith with that of a worker involved in a factory, whose sole task may be to pull a lever or press a button throughout the day. Cooperation in such a situation would be unforced. Now let us wind up the session, and thank you very much for engaging yourself with the Self Learning podcast.